Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? My name is Horizontal, and this is episode 209 of Online Marketing Moves. Ladies and gentlemen, today the topic will be the uphill climb. Now, everybody knows this podcast is about mainly the title says Online Marketing Moves, but at the end of the day, it's about entrepreneurship. It's about you wanting to start a business. It's about you wanting to do something different in your life. So today we will discuss, what it takes, what do you have to do, sacrifices that you might have to make in order for you to get to where you want to go. Now, is it we all know the hardest thing to do is to get started. That's the key step. And all that takes is a reason. You just need a reason. Doesn't matter the reason, doesn't matter, you know. Some people say they want more time. Some people say they want more, you know, money. Some people say they want to be around their family more. It doesn't matter your reason. It doesn't matter. You know the reason why you want to, become an entrepreneur. You know why you want to do something different than what you are doing, And if I was you, I would definitely write that down. Just write it down on a piece of paper. You don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to, if you don't want to. It doesn't matter. You know the reason why, you personally. So you just write it down, and you can write it down you can write it down in a notebook. You write it down on a little, 5x7 card. But I suggest you keep it with you and keep it in handy. And every now and then, as we talked about this week on Thursday's show, frustration, you know, anger, all that will kick in. All that stuff will happen. But you have to just think sometimes. Pull out the notebook or pull out the 5x7 card, or even if you got it on your phone, saying a little note or something, and just pull it out every now and then, and you just look at it and say, this is the why I keep doing this. So, you know, when frustration hits or you feel like you're not where you want to be, just whip that thing out and tell yourself, let's keep going. All right. Now, we both know that in order to get where you want to go, there's going to be some, pains, but at the same time, it's going to be a lot of positives. You are going to make changes within yourself that you probably thought, man, I didn't know I could do this or I could do that. And that is one of the great things about, you know, trying to do something new. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn, oh, I've been doing this and I've been doing that. I would give you an example. For me, for a long time, I just sort of felt like my life was on autopilot, because I would go to work, I was over the road, I would go to work, be gone for too long of a time and come back, spend a few days with my wife. It was nice, it was great, but then I would have to go back and I was like, and I was like, is this gonna be my life? And for a while I thought this is gonna be my life. And then I got to thinking, I said, I can't do this forever, because health wise and relationship wise, it just wasn't cutting the mustard, me being gone all the time like that. So at some point, I thought to myself, gotta go do something new. So for me, that was you know, one of the stronger things, just being gone all the time, being away from my wife. So that was one of my main motivations. So this is why I tell you to write it down. I've written down a bunch of reasons why myself, and I got a notebook that I keep it handy. I keep down in my one of my drawers, and every so often, and when the annoyance comes, the frustration hits, I pull it out. But a lot of times, you only get Well, for me, the we're not gonna focus on frustration and all that because it's not that. It just happens every now and then because, of course, well, you want things. We all want things sometimes to come faster than what they, you know, come, but that's okay. It's just we are humans, and that's how it goes sometimes. You know how you call up if you're real hungry. You ever been real hungry and you ordered a pizza, and 20 minutes can seem like an hour when you're super hungry, But if you're not hungry and you call the pizza place and they take 40 minutes, you go, it's no big deal. But when you're real hungry, you're like, where's my, you'll call in 5 minutes later. You're like, where's that pizza? I ordered that pizza like an hour ago. And you're like, no, you just ordered that pizza 5 minutes ago. You're just hungry. So sometimes we get hungry to get to where we want to go, as far as, the entrepreneurship and the business. And, you're like, you're making money here and there, and it's moving along steady, but you're like, I want this to happen now, So don't worry about that. That's not a big deal. That's just the human nature. But I will say, along the journey, it is, like we said, the first thing, especially when you want to do online, when you want to do online, you want to get in here, learn and then apply. You don't want to learn too much. You don't want to learn about e-commerce. You don't want to learn about drop shipping. You don't want to learn about this one, that one, the other one. Find out what works for you. Okay, and this is one of the most important things for the uphill battle. Find out what works for you. Everything is not going to work for you. Everything is not going to be, you know, like we talked about in an episode this week, how sometimes you take the things like a fish, in water. Okay. So, drop shipping might not be for you. Drop shipping might be for some people, but it might not be for you. Everything that everybody does is not for you. Find something that works for you. Find out, and it's not about, I know people love to tell you about, go do your passion or whatever, but I'm passionate about, I like, I like watching soccer, but I'm not gonna make any I'm not gonna make any money from watching soccer. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I would never try to turn that into a money making machine. We watching soccer, and I enjoy it very much. I really like watching it, but it's never gonna be something I'm gonna profit from. So everything that you're passionate about doesn't have to turn into a dollar machine. You know what I mean? So once you get that out of your mind, then you just figure out what works for you. And then one of the more important things that, you can start getting confidence from is when you start making money. Like when I first started in the MLM company, and it was like 6 months, and I was humming along, and one day I made some money. Like, I made a few bucks, and I was very excited. And then at that point, I said, okay, I can make money online. At that point, I said, because I didn't know, it had been 6 months, but really, I think I worked on it for maybe a month or two. Because the first month, I was like, this don't work. The first month, I was just like, I'm done with this. But then I came back a couple months later, and I said, I'm gonna try to make some sales. And then I made some sales. I got on the phone with a guy. I remember this is one of the worst phone calls I ever made, but I was real nervous. And but I said, you know what, I gotta go for it. And I called, and then I talked, and then he talked, and then I asked a couple questions, and then he said, yeah, man, I like it, man. I'm gonna sign up. And I sent him the link, and I remember, and then I remember that I got the money, and it wasn't no big commission or anything like that. But I remember I was more excited to get that money than the paycheck that I got, because I earned that money. Like, I went out and did it myself. So it gave me the motivation. It gave me the confidence to say, all right, buddy, even though it was shaky at first, and Some people, they like, oh, they don't take them long, but I don't care about that. I know I could do it, you know, and so that was part of the thing for me. So for you, you get out there, and once you start making some money, you will realize, okay, hey, I can do this. I can market. I can be an entrepreneur. I can do it. I'm on my own. I'm making money. And even though you might have a group of people with you and everything like that, nobody's nobody's gonna tell you, hey man, get up, man. Come on, man. We gotta do this, we gotta do that. No. It's you. It's you. At the end of the day, I had to one thing I thought about one day, I said, my wife, she loves me regardless. Don't matter what I do. You know, I go to if I drive trucks for the next 40 years, she's gonna love me regardless. You know what I mean? So it's not that, that like, and I know she supports me and I appreciate her support. But at the end of the day, all of us, each and every last one of us, anybody listening to this podcast, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and you have to say, I'm going to do this. Now me, I know one reason why I want to do this is because of my wife, because I want to, and she deserves it. We do a lot. She's made a lot of sacrifices in her life. And so for me, every day I get on this podcast and I'm like, she is a big part of the reason why I'm doing this, because I want to make more money so I will be able to take her more places, not more money, but I also want more time, to have, so me and her can go to these places. I mean, for me, it's more the time than the money. So, but I ain't gonna turn the money down. You know what I mean? So, all of us have to look at ourselves and figure out, why, who, what, where, and just get started. Like I said, and one thing that I want you to do is, sometimes you just know if something's going to work for you, and sometimes you just know if something's not going to work for you. So sometimes some things you hang in there, and some things you just get in and you're like, nope, this ain't for me, and you get out. Like I looked at a couple webinars when I first started. I looked at drop shipping, and I watched this little class this guy had, and he was talking about drop shipping, and I said, nah, this ain't for me. So I quickly, was like, nah, I'm not gonna do drop shipping. And it's all a learn thing. It's all a, just because yourself, you know yourself better than anybody, and it's like, what can I do? And I used to think that, I in the beginning I was like, oh man, I can't call anybody, I can't talk to people, I don't want to do that, that's not me. But I made the most sales by getting on the phone and calling people. So it's like, I can talk to people. I do like talking to people, apparently. And apparently it works, because I made most of my sales from actually getting on the telephone, making a phone call. And of course, people are so surprised that you make a phone call these days that they're like, oh, okay, I don't mind talking to a human being. So, but for you, just figure out where you want to be, what you want to do, and you don't have to, you don't want to spend a lot of time on the wrong things, but at the same time, make sure, you listen, you take notes, and then you go, will I think this thing will work for me? And then once you start, just stay committed to it. You're either going to be committed to it or you're not. Don't, for me, it's like we talked about in the episode before, how in the truck driving, you go to the orientation, and at that point, in them first 3 days, whether you're going to stick around this job or not. It doesn't take long at all. I've worked at places for 5-6 years, and it's been twice that I went to the place and I'm like, nope. And I just left after 2 days, and I'm like, nah, this ain't gonna work. So, you have to know what's gonna work and what's not gonna work. And then once you commit yourself to it, after a certain time, if it's been more than a month, if you're like 6 months into it and you think, oh man, this ain't working, I would keep going. 6 months is a long time, so I would keep I would keep at it. All right. But it's all part of the, quote unquote uphill battle. But it's, I'm telling you, the hardest thing is the beginning. Once you get to making some money, and then you could tell people, hey, I'm making, money, this, that, and the other. Because I thought about this the other day. You know, once you tell people, hey, I'm making, 20,000. If I, I'm definitely not up to $20,000 a month. But when I get up there, I'm going to leave my video. I'm going to leave my YouTube videos with, I'll make $20,000 a month, blah blah blah. And then of course, as we all know, people flock to that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, as I said, I'm never gonna be more appreciative of people listening to this podcast than I am now. The people that listen now, the people that download, the people that subscribe, people that checked it out, gave it a shot. You are greatly appreciated. One day, 10 years from now, there's gonna be lots and lots of people listening to this podcast or whatever form of audio they have. And they're gonna be like, "Oh, I've been with you in the beginning." I'm gonna say, "Yeah, oh yeah, I bet you were." And 90% of people, nah, they're never gonna be with you in the beginning. People want to be around success or what they deem success. Whatever success is. So people are not gonna be like, "Oh man, yeah, I wanted to stick with." XYZ company. I've been with them since the beginning, man. I shopped at their place since the beginning. No, they probably didn't. Okay. And that's okay. I mean, that's fine, Don't, because if you ever look on Facebook, like I got people that I grew up with, and they're like, "Oh man, congratulate all these haters, blah blah blah." They say I wouldn't do it, and it's like, who cares, man? Nobody really cares at the end of the day. Just shut up and do what you want to do. Shut up and do what you got to do to get to where you want to go. So, but that's just life, man. That's just a part of life. It's no big deal. But when you definitely get, on the uphill battle, and you definitely get to a certain point, this is where for you and for me, I would start thinking about selling the course, or just because, the more stuff that you have in your bag, the more that you will attract people to your business. You attract people to what you have going on. So you definitely once you get to a certain point, then you say, okay, let me write a book, or let me sell a course, and there's nothing wrong with that. Take the knowledge that you learn, take the things that you learn, and make it into a course, make it into something, and then that way you can you could do like a webinar, and then the webinar is out there. You could just do the webinar, and you can always upload the webinar, at a certain time. If you want to do it once a year, or twice a year, you're like, hey, okay, I'm opening up this course, and people want to buy, and that's good revenue. That's good income. This whole thing about online, one of the things that you want to do is you want to do stuff, and then you want to sit back and watch it grow. Watch it. You create a course, you do a webinar, you put it online. Because I used to see people, and they like, oh, this is the guy would be doing a webinar, but it was like an old webinar, and they would say, oh, this ain't live, blah blah blah. And it's like, who cares, man? He did it once live, and now he can upload it whenever they want to, and they make $500-$600, however much they're selling the product for. And can you imagine if you just sitting around on a Sunday, and you upload the webinar, and you get like 3 sales, so you make $1,800 in a day? That's pretty good living. So the whole I know the title of this podcast is Uphill Battle, but one of the things that you want to do once you get up the hill and you see the other side, it's beautiful. The journey is beautiful too, though. Don't get me wrong. The beginning, the middle, everything. It's all beautiful. But once you get to a certain point, then you go from surviving to thriving, and then you figure out what you want to do in your business. How do you want to generate more income? How do you want to generate more revenue? And that's important. So keep that in mind as well. Just because eventually all of us, everybody listening to this podcast, I know this, and then you know this, because if you listen to this podcast now, listen, you're not a sheep. Okay, you're definitely not a sheep, because like I said, people want to hear people. They wait for it forever, and then like, oh yeah, I've been with that guy forever. You know what I mean? It's not like it's like if you ever listen to a musician's story, and they're like, oh no, they didn't want to sign me because they didn't like my. Matter of fact, you know what? There's a story about DMX. He told a great story about Puff Daddy. DMX, when he first, he wanted to get signed, he went to Puff. Somebody knew Puff, and they was like, I got this guy, he's great. And so he went to Puff, and he said Puff was very honest with him. He said, nah, man, that ain't gonna sell, man. You're not marketable, man. You're not gonna sell. So then of course DMX, he went to Rough Riders, and of course, I think it was 1998. DMX, he was shot out of a cannon. He had 2 #1 albums that year. He was one of the hottest rappers in the industry. And then he said, Puff came to him and was like, "Hey man, I give you this, I give you that." Or maybe it was like a month or two later. I think it was like a month or two later when he had the song and it kind of blew up. And Puff was like, "I give you this and I give you that," and he was like, "Nah, that's all right." So that just goes to show that goes to show you how people are. So everybody's not gonna be with you in the beginning, but once you get the spark, once you get hot, then they'll be like, hey, they'll be like Diddy coming back, like, hey. So we say all that to say it's gonna work out. It's gonna work out for you. It's gonna work out for the other person listening. It's gonna work out for the person listening to this 6 months from now. But I definitely wanted to discuss the uphill battle with you because I'm not at the bottom of the hill. I'm right there where I can see the sun, and I'm right there, I'm like about 3 months away from actually being in a full-time entrepreneur role. So I'm very happy about that. But I also just want to discuss, because I know some people, I don't really know where people are at when they listen to this podcast. So sometimes I like to take it back to the beginning, and just give people the encouragement that they might need, because sometimes you might hear from your parents or you might hear from a sibling or a loved one, but sometimes you just want to hear from, you know, sometimes it's better to hear information from, not a stranger, but a guy that but you don't know. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I am your pal, but just in a different way. Because, you don't contact me, so I don't know. I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you a hard time now. But anyway, that's it, everybody. That's it for the podcast. Remember, the journey is long, but it'll be well worth it. Sacrifices have to be made. You can't watch all those cat videos all the time. Get in there and get to it. Get in there and get to work. And yeah, we'll be back tomorrow with another hard-hitting episode. Remember, everybody, this week I'm going to make as many phone calls as I can, and then Friday we will discuss phone calls, sales calls, okay, prospecting calls. We will discuss that on the podcast. And hopefully, well, not hopefully. Hope is for dopes. We will have good news. All right, we will see where we're at. Because I'll tell you a plan of mine. I'm going to make a lot more phone calls in the next 3 or 4 months, and then I'm gonna get those worked out, and then we're gonna get to the correct number. Once I get over a certain number, and then I'm going to make a course about making sales calls, and I too will be selling a course. So I mean, hey, you got to strategize this kind of stuff, right? But anyway, that's it for now. That's it for the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with another hard hitting episode. And if you haven't already, click and subscribe to this podcast, because as you see, these episodes come every day, all day. And go to the YouTube channel, click and subscribe, and go to the Facebook, Online Marketing Moves. Now we'll put all this in the. I need to start putting all this in the notes every day. So, but anyway, thank you for listening. We'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow. But until then, have a good day. And as always, everybody, peace.